I'm John Sherman. I'm the CEO of Storyfarm. We are a video agency making content for brands. A little bit about myself. I've been in Baltimore for close to 20 years. Grew up in DC. Went to Wisconsin. And today we have 13 full-time employees at our agency, making live action and animated content for all kinds of brands. Funny, I'm actually from DC. So I grew up in Northwest DC and then Bethesda and then back to Northwest. And one of my really good friend's sister went to Madison, and I went and visited when I was 17 for a weekend in Madison, and the story was written. And I often refer to it as one of the absolute best decisions I ever made. So it's so funny that you raised this as a question, because we have been needing to replace those photos for like 3 or 4 years now. You know how like agencies' own websites can get. So, you know, 3 or 4 years ago when we did those, it's always of like, you know, we're a creative agency. We want to do something fun with our bio photos. What can we do? Somebody brought up the idea of all the beautiful murals around Baltimore. And that really resonated with everybody. So everybody went and picked their own mural. And then we went and shot the bio photos of everyone at their own mural site. And that was really cool. Now we have to go do it again because we have some new people. And so we have a beautiful new office space in Fells Point. So I think we're just going to use that as our backdrop this time for our new photos that will replace the beautiful mural photos that you see currently. So I think part of it is just sort of being an entrepreneur at heart. I'm always like all day long thinking of new business ideas and new business ideas for Storyfarm and new business ideas for other people's businesses and other, just always thinking of new stuff to be doing. So that's one part of it, right? It's just sort of internally, we're always wanting to be changing and thinking of cool new stuff. The other part is the client side, where they're always wanting new and different things. So, you know, we view the video products we make sort of as snowflakes, where we're trying to make something unique for everybody. So, you know, I'd say it's both natural, internal driven, and also the external client world wants different too. Oh, kind of the same thing in the sort of vein of making snowflakes, but you know, every story is different, right? There's a story at the heart of every video we're making, and each of those stories are different. So it's just a question of how can we sort of visually interpret that story in a way that's unique and arresting and compelling and emotionally engaging for people. So, you know, that's a part of our challenge, I would say. Part of our challenge is making them all different. Another huge part of our challenge is distilling it all, right? Because you know, our videos are 60, 90, 2 minutes, 30 seconds, 15 seconds, whatever it is. And the client's message is always way bigger than that. So it's always an act of boiling it down to what's sort of most essential for that video. And that's always a fun process. It's actually, we find many times it helps the client in their other marketing efforts, just learning how to say their thing in 15 seconds or 30 seconds or 60 seconds, and having them be able to think about it in that sort of tight and nutshell can be really useful to them. It's a great question. We don't do media training, like sell it as a service, but it's certainly something we give away for free, you know, sort of on the quick and the sly on set. All of our crews are really well versed in making people who are amateur interviewers sound professional and you know, look and sound their best. But no, we don't do media training as a service. You know, it's just something that we're sort of versed in and walk people through the nickel media training tour and away they go. But we find usually that most people are great, you know, just being themselves with a little bit of help to bring them down and center them and get their best performance. Sure. So I decided when I was 15 years old that I was going to be a news reporter. Kid growing up in DC, dad worked in government, and I did a bunch of crazy internships starting in high school. When I was 16, I was an intern at WUSA Channel 9 in DC. And then when I was 17, I was an intern at ABC News Nightline. When I was 18, I was an intern at CBS News 48 Hours. And I only applied to 2 colleges. I applied to Northwestern Journalism early and Wisconsin, and the rest was rolling. And I would have applied to other stuff after that, but I didn't get into Northwestern. Thank them. And I did get into Wisconsin, and the rest was history. And so I spent a very impressionable summer at Nightline with Ted Koppel and the ABC News crew. And Koppel's big thing is that he did not want to hire journalism majors to come work for him. He wanted history and English majors, people, he said he thought, people who could think and who could write, and he'll teach you the nuts and bolts of journalism once you get there anyway. He doesn't want to have to unteach what some professor taught you. So I was a history major at Wisconsin, knowing that I was going to be a TV reporter. Got out of Wisconsin, went back to Channel 9, started ripping scripts on the morning show, making fake demo tapes, made a demo tape, got a job 3 months later in Charlottesville, Virginia. That was my first on-air job. And after that, went to Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina, and then to Baltimore. It's a great question. There's been so much. I was thinking about this the other day. I would probably have to say, so we did a campaign for Uber's safety division. And it's a series of 7 videos that every Uber driver on earth is required to watch as a part of their acceptance of their job. It gets into all sorts of inappropriate sexual situations that may happen in an Uber. If you can think, between the people in the back, the people messing with the driver messing with the people, like there's all sorts of, imagine if you owned Uber and you've got all those cars all over the world every day. Imagine what's happening in those cars. Like, life is happening. And so this is instructional content for the drivers to advise them about what to do in different uncomfortable situations. So it's a mix of live action and animation, and we actually made it. The shoot was like March 13th through 16th, 2020. So like the door of COVID is slamming shut. We're about to shut the country down. And like a Star Wars movie, this project scooches through the door right as it's closing. And really it was a big project for us, and it was important to get shot. And we had like 6 months of post-production to do right at the start of COVID. So it wasn't like, oh my God, what are we going to shoot? So it was very fortunate for us in its timing, and we're really proud of the work. It's important work. It's a great question. I wish I had the answer. I wish I would, we had a professor come in a third Zoom here and tell us the answer, but it seems like everything's always getting shorter, right? Like we've not passed the point where things are not getting shorter. So, there's certainly a lot of 15 and 10-second and 6-second content that we're making. And that's kind of fun because there's a challenge to it, and they're just sort of little bite-sized things. But I would say something that we're messing with going into next year, and that I think we'll probably see a little more of industry-wide, is an approach that we're calling problem first, which is basically like, so my sort of typical construction, classic construction of a video, right? I always refer to it as like a double funnel. So it starts out like wide at the top. There's something interesting and vague. It sounds interesting. It looks cool. What is it? It gets your attention, and you're like, what is that? And then you get down into sort of the problem, right? In the middle of the funnel. It's like, what's actually going wrong, the nuts and bolts. And then it widens back out at the end to say like, why this is important. Why should I care? What's happening next? Something broader. So broad, tight, broad, right, is generally sort of my own personal perspective of the classic construction of a video. I think something we're looking into for this year is really getting to sort of a problem first structure, where you take the most interesting part of the middle of the funnel, that nut or that bolt that's really interesting, that's really just going to grab you right away, and you hit them right with the problem first, just in the mindset that like, if we're going to lose people in 3 to 5 seconds, we may not have as much time to do this beautiful cinematic build that we'd like to do, that you see in sort of your classic video, where it's, here we are, and here's the problem. But it's sort of like, here's the problem, and then we get into the other stuff. So that's just something we're toying with a little bit.